Ándres, you rich men. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachakudash. Just wanted to say a couple of words on that, that title. Um, as you brothers and few sisters out there already know, there's a lot going on with this supply chain, and as I've said before, the Spirit had me say before that there are no such thing as shortages, because there are no shortages. It's just a manipulation to cause the supplies not to come in, into the neighborhoods, to these different stores. So technically there is no shortage. The only shortages are really coming by way of the different communities or different places where people live that are not receiving the supplies that they normally get. And I was meditating on that a little while ago, and then I was meditating on the book of James, the 5th chapter. Woe unto you, rich men, how for the miseries that shall come upon you, because as things worsen for the majority of the world, it just gets better and better for the so-called elite. The Ploúsioi Ándres, which is the rich men. And pretty much what's happening is they've systematically managed to pretty much intensify their gains, exponentially, based off of this one master stroke that they put upon the earth, which was given to them by the Lord to do that anyway. Because at the end of the day, the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai is the one that's controlling everything and moving everything in the direction of profit. Now, this bottleneck, or this, stacking, of these supplies, these cargo, these not the cargo, but the shipping containers, is causing them to get richer and richer because prices go up, which is a sign of, things become more expensive because of the dollar, and also because of something called supply and demand. When you have something called supply and demand, the person that holds these products, when they know that there's not enough to go around, they can set the prices, of what they call, I believe it's called price gouging. They could set that because they have the goods, people want the goods, they're in short supply, so they hike up the prices based off of what they want to make. And this is pretty much, in a nutshell, what the so-called quote-unquote elite are doing to this world. So the more they increase their riches, by these, tactics that they're using upon the world, which is pretty much fraud. What it's doing, and they may or may not realize it, it's pretty much bringing their bill higher and higher, because the blatant way that they're, ripping the people off in the world and having them in that bad state is pretty much going to be a witness against them when Yahweh Shai comes back. And this is why, the people that Yahweh Shai is coming to visit when he comes back first are the Edomites, because the Edomites are in power. And they know this. They know that they're the Edomites. Sometimes they claim it, most times they won't. And they know that they're the Edomites. And this is why Yahweh Shai is coming to deal with them, especially the ones that are at the top. The ones that can afford these expensive bunkers, luxury bunkers, And this is why when the destruction comes, Yahweh Shai, cracks the clouds, they're going to be in those bunkers, not saying these words specifically, but by their actions of being there, they're going to say, hide us from him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So as things get worse, people's conditions worsen, the poor continuously get poorer, and the rich continually get richer, these tactics that they're using are counting against them, even though they may not realize it. So it's counting against them, and the Lord is going to use that to judge them. This is why when we read the book of Nahum, the first chapter, it says that the Most High is long-suffering and will not at all acquit the wicked. So the Lord is not going to acquit the wicked because they're going to pay. The scriptures say, according to their substance shall the restitution be. So they keep amassing wealth and amassing wealth and amassing wealth. And by using the same tactics that they used before, people dying from starvation, people dying from, essential medicines that they can't afford, So all of these miseries are not going unheard. Everything that's going on in the world today, the suffering that the people are going through, especially the Israelites, they're all being recorded. The Lord sees everything. Remember, the Lord's eyes are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. The eyes of the Lord are running to and fro on the earth, which are the angels. And they're recording all of this. And that's why when we read the book of Revelation, the 20th chapter, which the so-called scholars call the white throne judgment, this is, what's going to ultimately happen at the end, when the Lord finally brings that judgment upon them. Because we're pretty much almost at the end of the revelation stage. When you go to court, you have the accused, you have the accuser, you have witnesses, you have, evidence, you have your, there's a term, you have your, I forget the term of it, but when they start, when you go through the process of revealing, everything that's taking place, because what you're doing is pretty much building a case against the individual that's being accused, So we're pretty much at the end of that process. We're pretty much now in the sentencing stage, where the sentencing stage, pretty much brings out the punishment for the crime that has been committed based off of the evidence that has been presented. And the evidence that's been presented and stacking against you Edomites is overwhelming. So we're basically almost at the end of the revelation period. We're almost at the end of the sentencing period, and we're about to begin the stage of judgment, where the Lord is going to pretty much, bring forth the judgment that he has, that he has pronounced against this man. So that's the point that we're at. So like I said, as I was meditating on this so-called supply chain breakdown, meltdown, whatever you want to call it, the so-called supply shortages, because there's not a shortage of supplies. They're just not getting to you because of where they're being stored at. And this is done systematically to cause people to do what the bankers want them to do, and that's to take that jab and eventually take the MOTB. As we speak right now, they're saying that Austria is about to go back into lockdown, but not everybody, or no, it's going to be the first place. I'm not sure if they call it country when they said it, but it's going to be the first country, or whatever the terminology for that is, to go on lockdown in the world, but not everybody, just the ones that have not, been hit by that smooth criminal, the juice works of Esau's madness. So this is causing a strain on the world. It's causing a strain on the people. It's causing, these the famines. It's causing people to be hungry, die of starvation, have to make tough decisions as to whether they're going to eat or pay bills, so on and so forth. And as you keep pushing your agenda, and as you keep amassing your wealth, all of these things are counting against you. Because the Lord said, matter of fact, let me leave you with one precept. And Lord's will, I could come back and do a lesson. Brother asked me a question on Genesis, the first chapter. I was kind of going through it, so I want to, Lord's will, just go through it, and hit some basic points, and hopefully it'll be edifying lesson, and answer answer the brother's question. This is Ecclesiastes 10:8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. And this is what's happened. You got unrighteous dealings, which they're doing with these mandates and the things that they're doing. The so-called supply shortages, the breakdown in the supply chain, injuries, because it's causing injuries. And this is why, you have those different stages in law. You have the accused, the accuser, you have the evidence, you have the process that it took place. If you have witnesses, you have witnesses. The injuries suffered by the plaintiff, from the defendant, so on and so forth. So it says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. And this is exactly how they got the riches, by deceit. The kingdom is translated from one people to another, because riches and lands, cattle, they're never lost. They're always transferred. When you go back in history and you look at all those different nations that ruled, the empires that ruled, what happens is they lose their wealth, they lose their land, they lose their empire, but it just doesn't go into oblivion. It translates or transfers hands. So we're witnessing a great transfer, we're witnessing a great transfer right now. Yahushua is about to come back and claim his rightful place on the throne, of the world and of the universe, because that's what was promised to him by his Father. The Lord says, sit down on my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. And you best believe that these international banking families are at the top of Yahushua's shit list, because they are the top of the enemies of the Lord. So the more they amass their wealth, the more misery they bring upon the earth, the more misery is going to come upon them. That's why the Most High said through the mouth of the Apostle James, how ye rich men, how for your miseries that shall come upon you. Because you've established the world by blood. Your empire or your so-called dynasty has not been established upon the basic principles and righteous principles of the scriptures. It's been based upon robbery. It's been based upon rape. It's been based upon fraud. It's been based upon usury. It's been based upon everything that goes against the principles that the Lord set up as the instructions on how to live and guide yourself in a righteous way or manner. That's what the Lord said. But unto the wicked the Most High saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenants in thy mouth, seeing thou hatest instructions, and castest my word behind thee? Because you don't judge out of the Bible. You judge out of your own penal code. You use the Bible just as a means to get people to comply, because they're thinking that you're a righteous people. That's why in all your court systems and your money system, on your money you have in God we trust. But what God are you speaking about? See, because when they make statements, certain statements and things that they say are very ambiguous. They're not clear, and what they mean and what they say. Because it's meant to be that way on purpose. Because everything that these devils do, whatever law they pass or whatever they do, is always open to interpretation. But it's not open to the interpretation of the masses of the people. Is open to the interpretation of the ones that they set up in power to make bring forward those rules and whatever they set up, rules, regulations, mandates, or whatever the case may be. So just wanted to say a couple of words on that. Ploúsioi Ándres, which is rich men, and that's who this is addressed to. And pretty much the more you amass your wealth, the more misery you put on the planet, the more misery you put on the people, the more miserable you're going to be. But when you finally go down, and it's going to be beyond words what you're going to go through. It's beyond words. Words cannot Words cannot explain the type of pain that you're going to be going through. Read the parable in Luke 16 chapter about Lazarus and the rich man. You know, that was a parable, but parables are meant for something. They're meant to, they're spoken riddles that are a reflection of real life events. You know, and this is about to soon happen. You know, the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. All right, so with that, you know, I pray that your brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say shalom.